understand from our applicant, and that other drawing included the extra steps for lifting up the floor level. Anna, just to let you know that G has included the extra steps. Our principal objectives were many, and to reinstate the demolished half of the 9 to 10 4th Street, to complement the architecture of the surrounding areas and the in height, massing and materials, and the intention is to actually make the number 10 new little semi-detached in a Mill Hill stone quarry stone, and then the other stone to the main building different, so it will look different. We've aimed, obviously, to not interfere with the views of the Catholic Church, which was one of the main issues which Graham and Historic England were concerned about, and Anna, of course, and we've brought the ridges down. Historic England's comments on the development of this site, where the principle of the site redevelopment is firmly supported. The immediate vicinity is characterised by low-scale domestic terraced cottages and 3-storey townhouses, all of which are buildings of simple geometry constructed from local stone. Given the prominent location and its World Heritage Site conservation area context, we firmly believe that it should draw some reference to the distinctive architectural character of Tavistock. We consider that this scheme fulfills the aims of the NPPF Chapter 16, conserving and enhancing the historic environment, particularly the desirability of new development making a positive contribution to local character and distinctiveness. Seconds. The empty and unsightly site will be brought into sustainable use, and the design will reflect the character. It will positively enhance the Tavistock conservation area, and it fulfills the aims of all the conservation and historic environment policies. And NPPF says local planning authorities should look for opportunities for new development within conservation areas and World Heritage Sites. Proposals that make a positive contribution to the assets should be treated favourably.
It's well timed, well done. Okay, thank you. Anybody got any questions for Ms. Price? No, that's it, lovely. Thank you very much. If you'd like to replace your microphone, be great. Thank you very much indeed. Normally we would expect the board member who's called into committee to actually speak, which is Councillor Coulson. He's not here, and I know he has work commitments. I suspect that is the reason why. I appreciate that Councillor Hipsey is a member of the committee and would probably prefer to reserve for debate, so we will take that as it is. Okay, members, do you have any further questions before we move the recommendation? Nope, doesn't look like it. So I will move the recommendation as outlined on page 23, which is to delegate to Head of Development Management for conditional approval subject to completion of an acceptable Section 106 agreement. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Chairman.
Thank you. Members, we are in debate. Right, Councillor Hipsey and then Councillor Southcote.
Sorry.
No? Okay. Councillor Hipsey, Councillor Vachon.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, Chair, as you rightly pointed out, unfortunately, Councillor Coulson can't be with us. I'm assured that he's currently in a green suit trying to sort out some of the mess that has resulted from the Afghanistan withdrawal, which I think everybody will agree is an important thing to be doing. So therefore, speaking as a ward councillor with some experience of this area, my thoughts are very mixed, in fact, because as far as I can see, this in fact will improve the character of the approach to Tavistock in this area. I don't think there's any doubt that the current situation with the cars parked there is something of a carbuncle, and any development of this sort, well designed, will, in my opinion, improve things. The flooding situation is somewhat confusing, I have to say, I think, because as the planning officer pointed out, this is in flood zone 3. However, it is not in the CDA and it's not in the Tavistock Blue Square. So I'm not entirely sure whether the Environment Agency, how concerned the Environment Agency really are with this, but I think, to use the planning officer's phrase, sufficient jiggery-pokery has been done to probably satisfy what's been going on. I'm comforted by the fact that we've raised the floor levels, and we've also introduced some mitigation in the one property where that might not do the trick. The thing that really worries me, and this is based very much on my own experience, is the traffic situation here. This, without a doubt, is an absolute disaster area at times, certain times of the day, particularly when it's at school picking up time, commuting time, it gets gridlocked. And this is exacerbated by the new development in Callington Road, New Launceston Road, where all the traffic from those developments tends to move through this part of the town. We have the Spar shop with its pull-in area, which always confuses things. And I'm also concerned about the parking provisions for this development. The 6 parking places we've seen, I referred to earlier, I don't think that's going to be sufficient. And I think that's backed up by the SPD. I know it's only advisory, but I don't think we have enough parking here, which means parking's very difficult around here. And again, especially when we have school picking up, school dropping off times, I think this will only exacerbate the traffic situation. The point's been made that there may be more vehicle movements at present than there will be when the new development, or if the new development is built. I can't agree with that. In my opinion, cars for sale are static. They are behind a fence. I know it's only a temporary fence. And I really can't accept the fact that there will be less car movements, vehicular movements, with the proposed development. On those grounds, I don't think I'm going to be able to support this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Vachon.
Thank you, Chairman. I do know this area quite well because I do drive along quite a lot. I know that the situation with the cars and parking along there is quite difficult. There isn't any extra parking, and I've driven around there many times looking for somewhere to park. So I know there is heavy traffic along, especially along Ford Street, and it narrows at that point just before the garage forecourt. My main niggle is really the design of the building itself. I can't understand why a 2-storey building wasn't considered, because this is quite a large sort of blocky shape, which will take up that corner there. And I feel that, although, as my colleague on the right says, it probably looks fine as you're driving into Tavistock and it looks part of the town, but to my mind, that front elevation there at the top left looks very, very blocky, especially with the garage entrance on the right-hand side. I don't think that really is in keeping with the rest of the properties in that particular area. I know it matches the Fitsford frontage there to the right, but I don't know. I have reservations of whether that was the right design to undertake. I don't think that is an attractive frontage, and I would have preferred to have seen probably something more appropriate to the area, to the cottages, and maybe just a 2-storey. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to sort of follow on which the original councillor spoke about vehicular noise in this particular area. It seems to be becoming quite normal now for planning conditions to be placed on planning applications in this sort of situation to address the noise one will get from traffic to what is a residential area. The problem being opening windows for ventilation in the warmer periods, which becomes almost impossible. What seems to be happening in other areas that an acoustic engineer looks at it and looks at the decibel reductions, and this in its form dictates the type of glass which is specified and the type of windows, but above all, for natural ventilation where it is going to be detrimental to the people living in there, the noise from vehicles, is to consider a form of mechanical ventilation as well, which they can use in the very hot periods where it is quite reasonable to open windows. So that is something I would have liked to have seen here. Initially the study by an acoustics engineer, but we must be careful that we're not producing buildings which are going to allow a lot of noise coming into them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any more for any more? I would.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a very difficult site, actually, and I remember when it was a very busy BP filling station, and granted, there wasn't the queues of traffic using Callington Road that we get now back then, but it was, you know, a very, very busy filling station. Like Councillor Vachon, I have concerns about the balconies and that overlooking the road. It's just, it's out of character to a degree with the, you know, the rest of the buildings around, apart from the Fitzford Lodge development. I appreciate the requirement or the wish to have a two-storey development, but what we have to remember is that it's an expensive site to develop because there's going to be contamination there once they lift the concrete, and there's going to be a very significant cost in dealing with that. Although the petrol tanks and diesel tanks were removed when, you know, the filling station closed. Well, that's my understanding anyway. It's a difficult one. I am pleased that the cottage is being reinstated. That was demolished many, many, many years ago when that site, the actual, before the BP garage, was a coach service station for a local coach company. And they used to repair and service all their coaches there. So that is one really good aspect that, you know, I'm pleased to see. It's very difficult, and I haven't decided yet which way I'm going to vote on this, so I will pass over to my other colleagues. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any more for any more? Councillor Leach.
Yes. Excuse me. For me, it looks an overdeveloped site is trying to shoehorn as much as they can into this small site. General concerns is it was mentioned about noise and traffic noise and opening windows. The other issue I can see on that roundabout, because I, like others, have been stuck there in the past, is vehicle emissions. So if you're going to open your windows to get some ventilation, if there hasn't been adequate ventilation installed, then sitting right on that roundabout, there's going to be some pretty bad emissions going into those particular properties. Also concerned, like others, about the parking situation. I can't see 6 for 7 properties being adequate. It's wonderful to have bike racks, and hope that people would find employment in Tavistock. But I think that might well be a bit of a pipe dream at the moment. And it's the displacement of other cars is my other concern. So then you might be lucky to get one of those 6, but if you've got other forms of transport you have to find parking for, there is nothing there. And what is there, if somebody else takes that parking spot, then you have displacement somewhere else. So it'll be a knock-on effect, I fear. The footpath where the garage entrance is at the moment, I'm not quite sure. I see it's got 2 dwarf walls either side, but equally it looks like the fence stays in place. And further up, from a plan view, it looks as though there's going to be some form of garden if you're coming out to the right. Now, as that becomes established, I can see that view being much more restricted for cars coming in or coming out of that development, which will be much harder to see pedestrians than it is now. So again, I'm concerned that highways haven't picked that up. But I, like Councillor Pearce, am sitting up the fence at the moment. Thank you.
You might need to jump off the fence in just a second. I would urge a little bit of caution, though, about sort of objecting to an application on the grounds of the highways solely when the highways engineer has made it clear there isn't a material planning reason, on the simple basis that the planning inspector would argue what would count as no comparison to a highways engineer with the of the higher tier authority. So I would just urge a little bit of caution on that one. Anybody else wish to speak in debate before we take this to the vote? No? Okay, then I hope you're all ready to climb off the fence. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation, please show. Those against? Three or four. Can you put your hands back up again? It's quite difficult for Miss Young to actually be able to see, I'm afraid. Lovely. Thank you. So that is carried. Thank you. Okay. So we now move on to item 6 on your agenda, which is page 47, the planning performance indicators. And just bear with me while I get there. Have you got copies of this? Okay, I will need to pass my actual paper over to Ms. Henderson-Smith to take questions on it. Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Any members have any questions? Put the right glasses on will help. On the planning performance indicators, anybody got any questions on that? No, you got any comments particularly? Okay.
There's only one comment really that I'd raise, and that's just really to draw members' attention to the fact that the, as you would expect, I'm sure you're aware that the current applications coming in and the workloads are on the rise, and you can probably see what I would say is the result of that. So on the, I think it's top right on your plans here, you can see the non-major apps on target, and you can see that for quarter one of 2021 to 22, the black line that goes across is the designation level, and you can see that the blue bar comes slightly in under that, which is pretty unusual. So for the first time in a long time, it's dropped just below the level we would need to be achieving in order to avoid designation. We're not overly concerned about that at this current point in time, because that's done on a rolling 2 years, so 8 quarters if you like, but it's why you will see information in front of you in other meetings about trying to address that, because the workloads are rising, and one of the knock-ons of that is obviously, difficulty in issuing decisions.
Thank you. Anybody got any questions arising from that? No. Okay, so we'll move on then to item 7, which is the planning appeals update on page 51 to 52. Did you wish to comment, Ms. Henderson-Smith, on this one?
Only that it's nice news this month, and all of them were dismissed. So all applications appealed. The council, whether it was an officer decision or a member decision, has been supported by the planning inspectorate. So full house this month. That's all I've got to say on it. Thank you.
Did anybody have any questions on any of the applications that were there, the appeal decisions that were there?
Pleased to see that the planning inspectors have viewed our decisions, or our officers' decisions, with support.
I would just add that I think it's also interesting to add, all joking aside, that we've been supported on every front with those decisions, and it's actually quite an interesting mix of decisions. And at all householders, you've got certificates of lawfulness, you've got TPO appeal, there's a full application. It's quite a mix, and across the board, they've been supported. So that, that's really good news.
And I will just add that, it's good to see that we're, the sound decisions that are being made, but we will obviously continue to source relevant and appropriate training, particularly for members, to ensure that anything that comes to committee, that we can make the best decisions that we can, based on material planning reasons that are before us. Okay, so item 8 then, which is the update on undetermined major applications, and this is, as members are aware, is just about the process and where any applications are in their process, rather than looking at the merits. Has any members got any questions on any of these at all? Councillor Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's just a simple one. I have a meeting this afternoon, a progress meeting on Spring Hill, and wondering what the situation is. I see the target date is the 28th of October, and just is this an achievable date? Bearing in mind the situation we are in with workload on the planning department.
If I may come back on that one, that application, you'll see, is sitting with me, so I can answer that one with some certainty. It won't be determined by the 28th of October. It has to go to planning committee, obviously, because it's a council application, and the deadline for reports for that October planning committee, or the October planning committee, which I think is the 6th or the 10th. I'm sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head. But the deadline for reports for that is this coming Monday, and we are still in a period of consultation on Spring Hill because it had to go through a second round of consultation. There was a slight error with the first consultation. So it's still out for consultation. The applicant, obviously the council, but specifically the person dealing with that and the agent are aware of that, and their timescales reflect the fact that it's anticipated that it would go to November or December committee. So that is a discussed thing. That's not a surprise to them, as I say, for various reasons, but I will ensure an extension of time is actually agreed to update that report that's in front of you. So there's nothing that's particularly held it up. It's just one of those things it has to go through, but it won't be going to October committee.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any more questions, anybody? Nope. Lovely. In that case, I think that's it, and I will thank you all for your attendance and declare the meeting closed.